Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk through erosion control and what goes into a plan. Casey is going to walk us through the 3 phases of erosion control. Any site over 1 acre needs to have 3 phases. The first phase are the BMPs that you put in prior to starting construction. The second phase are the things that happen during construction, and then phase 3 are the permanent BMPs that are left over once construction and the site's totally finished. If a site's less than 1 acre, you can just do everything in one phase, so we'll cover that as well. So sit back and let's learn from Casey as we talk through erosion control.
Welcome back, guys. This is Casey. Today we're going to be going over an overview of erosion control plans and what you need to know before you start the process of making your erosion control plans. So, for starters, what is an erosion control plan? Well, an erosion control plan is designed to stop sedimentation particles from leaving the site, which can cause damage to waterways, ecosystems, aquatic ecosystems downstream. It's to prevent erosion issues like flooding or channel degradation downstream from your site, so you don't flood your neighbors and or cause severe channel degradation maybe in a nearby stream. And it also can save both the city, your client, and anyone involved with the land development a ton of money in remediation efforts later on down the line if there happens to be damage from excessive erosion. So to start off with erosion, each state typically has different requirements for erosion. In the state of Georgia, which is where we do most of our projects, the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System is what regulates your erosion control permits. So you have to get a general permit in the state of Georgia. Okay, and you have to get a general permit for any construction activity that has disturbing land greater than an area of 1 acre or over multiple tracts that have a land disturbance greater than 1 acre. So if you're less than 1 acre, then you don't have to get this general permit. However, typically we still do some sort of erosion control plan, some sort of plan that provides best management practices to avoid any liability and prevent erosion, even on sites that are less than 1 acre. But typically most of our sites are more than an acre, so you will have to get a general permit. Prior to getting the general permit, you're going to have to fill out a notice of intent, or the property owner will have to fill out a notice of intent. Sometimes we will fill out the notice of intent on behalf of the property owner, just as a, kind of as a consultant to the property owner. And what a notice of intent is it's exactly what the name sounds like. It's notifying the state that we intend to do construction activity and that we are providing these erosion control plans along with our construction documents that prove that we are using the adequate best management practices to prevent damage, stream degradation, flooding, etc. from excessive erosion. So some other things that are included within erosion control plans is a 7-day inspection. Once work on the construction site has started, then typically we have to send out a design professional, which might be an engineer with our firm, to go do a 7-day inspection to ensure that all the BMPs are being installed as designed on site and that the contractors aren't, omitting BMPs or, installing BMPs incorrectly. BMP is a term that you're going to hear a lot. It just means best management practice. It's a term that we use for any sort of practice like providing silt fence or providing sediment traps or sediment basins. Things that are common practice to prevent erosion is just simply called a BMP, or best management practice. Once the site's been completely stabilized and or construction activities have ceased, then a notice of termination will have to be filled out by the property owner, which notifies the state that no more work is being done, and they no longer have to send out any inspectors from the state. Here we have a little bit of a flow chart here that's going to show you whether or not the Georgia National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System general permit applies to the property. So a couple different things play into that. Whether or not it's a common development or a standalone development will play into that. The acreage of the site will play into that, as we discussed previously. And it'll also, whether or not you have to file a notice of intent as a secondary, primary, or tertiary permittee will depend on the previous owner, if they filed something, or if the current owner bought a site which was already under construction. Then it can get a little muddy there. So once you have made your erosion control plans and submitted the permit, then this permit will be issued separately from your construction documents permits or your land disturbance permits provided by the city or county in which the work's being done. Some cities or counties will review your erosion control plans directly if they are allowed to review them by the state. And if those cities or counties are not allowed to review erosion control plans by the state, then you will have to submit your erosion control plans to GSWIC, or Georgia Stormwater Conservation Committee, and they will review your plans on behalf of the jurisdiction in which the work is being done. In that case, you'll have to mail in physical copies and go through a bit of a different process there. If the city is allowed to review it, then you simply submit your erosion control plans when you submit your construction documents for LDP review, and then they will either issue or not issue your LDP based off of your compliance with the NPDES general permit. Okay, and then if I go ahead and pull up an erosion control plan here that's already been done, just so we can take a look at it, we'll go ahead and go to phase 1, just to get a general scope of what exactly is going on. So I'll actually start in phase 2 here. So typically your erosion control plans are designed to direct all of your runoff during construction activities into what's called a sediment trap or a sediment basin. Now, the terms and the terminology differs based off of the amount of area draining to that sediment trap or sediment basin. Sometimes it'll be a trap, sometimes it'll be a basin, and we'll get kind of more into the nitty-gritty here shortly. But essentially, everything is designed such that all of the runoff will flow into your primary BMP, which will be a sediment trap or sediment basin. And there will also be many secondary BMPs provided on site, like silt fence, as well as dust control, seeding, etc., all of which is designed for the purpose of preventing excessive erosion. So if we move to phase 1 here, just to get a look at the first phase. So the first phase erosion control plan, the limits of disturbance, which is this yellow line here, which is called out as limits of disturbance right here. This is our limits of land disturbance in phase 1. So this is the land that is disturbed and or ground that is broken to install the phase 1 best management practices. So whenever a contractor arrives on site, this is the first thing that they're going to do, is they're going to install best management practices, right, during the phase 1. So this is going to be the installation of the temporary sediment traps, the installation of silt fence, and the digging of diversion channels, etc. Okay, this is going to be the installation of a concrete washout, construction exit, okay, and any other BMPs that are located on site. And then in our phase 2 erosion control, they're going to start grading out our stormwater facilities. So they're going to grade out the ponds, they're going to start installing, pad grading for buildings. Okay, so if you notice here on this plan, our temporary sediment traps also double as our detention pond. So we designed our detention pond, and then we designed our sediment trap to be in the same location and either partially the full depth of the pond, or in phase 2 they'll dig out the full depth of the pond, such that contractors don't have to dig out sediment traps and then refill them later and then dig out the ponds, right? So they're not double working. Okay, so that's one of the common things that you'll see. And then in phase 3, they're essentially going to be erecting the building up. They're going to be finalizing the stormwater facilities, the pipes, etc. And they're just going to be doing a couple last best management practices, which is adding permanent seeding, which is this DS3 BMP here, and then continued dust control. Dust control is simply just wetting the ground where there's dirt, such that trucks, when they drive over it, dust and dirt doesn't kick up into the air. If the ground's wet, that kind of prevents dust and dirt from kicking up into the air. Okay, so the contractor is going to take our erosion control plans, and at each step, or in 3 different kind of phases as construction continues, they'll be adding, changing, removing different best management practices, all while they're building the stormwater facilities, while they're erecting a building, while they're doing any type of construction that's going on site. They're also employing these best management practices to prevent excessive erosion.